The Little Mermaid came out this year, and the thing I could say I hated the most about it, other than Scuttle, was Ariel's dresses. They were so boring, and I was just so disappointed because this is the year of Mermaidcore, you know? So I decided to make a dress myself inspired by The Little Mermaid and Mermaidcore in general, and to show you the process of designing, creating, and sewing the garment. And I have the free pattern linked in the description box below in case you want to try it yourself. Let's get started. So the inspiration from this dress is inspired by The Little Mermaid, the original, not the remake, and Mermaidcore in general, because it's just so trendy right now. What is Mermaidcore? Well, it's pretty much anything related to mermaids. Very aquatic, shiny sequins, marine life, seashells, and fish scales. I wanted to wear something similar to that this summer to the beach, even though I'm too broke to go to the beach, but hey, at least I'll look the part. So it's going to be based off of this design with a bustier top or bodice with the seashell cups, as well as a straight skirt and a ruffle with a slit on the side. And for some little extra spiciness, I added a beaded seashell straps, you know, just to give it a little something extra. Okay, so next is the materials. First, you're going to need a fabric for your outer shell. You can use any type of light to medium weight fabric, such as linen, cotton, crepe, or whatnot. I'll be using this beautiful blue pillowcase. And then for your lining fabric, you want something equally as lightweight. I'll be using this white bed sheet. And then you're going to need 2 foam bust cups for the bust area, because there's going to be some draping involved. So if you want to, you can pick out an old bra or to buy some foam and then cut out the pattern and make the bust cups with that. And then of course you're going to need some pearls and seashells and beads, and I have this jewelry making kit that I'm going to be using for the beads and pearls, and a seashell necklace, so that's perfect. And then you're going to need a long zipper. I only have a 7-inch zipper. You really need a 10-inch one, but this is all I got, so I'm just going to use that. And last but not least, you're going to need the pattern, which I self-drafted myself. So drafting the pattern was pretty much okay and simple, except for the seashell bust cups. Oh my god, those took forever. It took me so many tries to get that pattern right, because I wanted to show the bust having pleats going into like the middle part to the outer part, you know, similar to like a seashell. And I cannot find any tutorials anywhere on the internet on how to do that. The only thing I was able to find were videos on how to like drape fabric onto a foam cup. After many tries and many mock-ups, I was finally able to get the correct pattern. Next is the cutting. So as far as with cutting out the lining fabric first, as well as the outer fabric. But it's also very helpful as a helpful tip to make sure to have some paperweights when cutting out fabric, especially if you're using a rotary cutter, using something small and heavy that you can weigh down on the fabric and the pattern so that it doesn't move around. Cute little marbles that I hot glued together, and making sure to weigh them down and pin them as well. Pinning them is also very helpful. That's another tip. And to remember, for the front of the bodice and the front of the skirt, those 2 pieces need to be cut on the fold. And then for cutting the straps, I feel like everyone has pretty much different lengths for straps. I cut out pretty much about 40 centimeters long of a strap length, and it was 3 centimeters wide. But for you, you just have to measure yourself to see what length of strap works best for you. And then next step is cutting out the ruffle. The ruffle is going to be 2 times the length of your hip measurement. So make it slightly curved on the end so you can have that little slit moment. And not only that, but you need 2 of those long strips because they need to be sewn together. So basically 4 times the length of your hip measurement you need to cut out. Now the first piece that I'm sewing is the lining of the skirt. Before sewing the skirts together, sewing the darts of the front of the skirt and the back, so there's 4 darts in total. So when you're sewing those darts together, here's the tip: do not do a back stitch when you get to the end of the dart. Just with some long strings attached, and tie a small knot at the end. That way that the dart doesn't appear bulky and stuff when you start wearing it. Also, very important step, after every time you sew a seam or dart or anything, make sure to iron your fabric, because if not, it's going to look bulky and very not cute. And another thing, after sewing each seam, be sure to definitely overlock your seams. There are many possibilities. Next is for sewing the bodice, the lining of the bodice. So I sewed the lining and the outer pieces of the bodice together and then flip them inside out, so that way they are now one piece, but still leaving some space open for the cups, because I'm going to have to sew on the bust cups a little bit later. So for the seashell bust cups, this part is definitely the most trickiest part of the pattern. I'm not gonna lie to you. Since I did the hard part of making the pattern, all you have to do is just to drape it onto the foam cups. Make 7 pleats, and each pleat starts off as being about 5 centimeters width at the very bottom, going up to about 1 centimeter width at the top. And you're just going to need to keep some space in between each one by making sort of like a seashell type of design with the pleats. And it's also very important, completely pin this as you go, using lots of pins from the beginning of the pleat to the middle to the end of the pleat. Once you have pinned down all 7 pleats and it's at least covering your bust cup foam area, then go ahead and slightly steam it a little bit, because you're going to be sewing it but you still want it to stay in place. So do a slight tiny little bit of ironing on top, or steaming if you have that, and then go ahead and start to sew 1 pleat at a time by removing each pin as you go. Just being very careful and slow about it, so that way you don't mess up. After sewing it onto the foam cups, it's now time to sew the bodice to the actual skirt. It's also very important to make sure that your darts line up with each dart. Both darts in the front line up with the skirt darts, and the back darts line up with the back darts. Go ahead and pin it first, and then slowly sew along that line to bring the top of the bodice to the skirt together. And then after you're done doing that, very important to zigzag stitch or serge or overlock that stitch somehow, so that way the fabric doesn't fray. And then of course iron your seams. So I seam ripped a little bit of the back skirt for the lining and the outer, and I lined up and pinned the zipper on one side and on the other. Since I don't have a zipper foot just yet, I decided to hand stitch a straight stitch around for the zipper. So when it comes to sewing the ruffle, first you're going to sew pretty side to pretty side, and then sewing around the entire thing. This part takes a while, definitely. And then leaving some space at the end, because why? You're going to then push everything out and make this very long tube. After getting it flipped inside out, you're going to then of course iron it so that it becomes nice and flat. And then now you have your ruffle, and it is now ready to be gathered. Okay, so with the gathering, I learned this really great method. Here's the tip. So for gathering it, you first pull out your bobbin thread. While holding both threads, you go ahead and turn the wheel a little bit so it goes down and catches the bobbin thread and pulls it back up. Pull out the bottom bobbin thread so that both threads are now on top of the fabric. Very important. Once you do that, you're going to pull the thread towards you and make it just as long as whatever piece that you're about to sew. Once you do that, you're going to need a nice wide zigzag stitch, and after that you're going to start to sew it, and it's going to create like a lot of zigzags over that long thread piece. Once you do that, after finally getting to the end, you're going to start to pull it and gather the fabric, which makes it so much easier. Very easy compared to just using like sewing 2 straight stitches. I'm glad I don't have to do that. After making the ruffle, you're going to then sew the ruffle onto the skirt. So first turning the skirt inside out and pinning the ruffle while it's still gathered to the bottom of the skirt, making sure there's some space for the slit area for the 2 ends to meet. Next is the straps. So for the straps, this part is where I got a little bit lazy. I was starting to get very tired. I have I decided to make 2 straps, of course, 3 centimeters wide, 40 centimeters long, and of course I have some beads to use. So with these beads, I have some large seashells, some small seashells, green beads, some pearls, and some diamonds. I thought all of these looked very cute and aquatic, very mermaidy to use together to put on top of the straps. So I went ahead and made a strap a little bit shorter than the actual strap, since it's going to stretch a little bit, since I'm using some stretchy string, nylon string, and then I'm going to create 2 knots on the ends of each side of the bead strap. And then what you're really supposed to do is use some loops and then sew some loops onto the end of the bodice cups and the back of the dress, and then clip the strings onto that. But I decided to sew everything together. Why? Because I was just feeling lazy. I just wanted to hurry and get it done. I was working on this until like very early in the morning. I haven't had much sleep. You don't have to do exactly the way I do it. Please use the proper loops and clamps you're supposed to use when using with jewelry string. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to see what it looks like, but you can make this any way you like to. After sewing on the straps and the ruffle, the bodice, the skirt, I am finally done with the dress. I absolutely love it. It's the cutest dress for the summer. I feel like this is the best thing I have made so far. Definitely one of the most difficult. It is perfect for wearing inside, for wearing outside, and for wearing to the beach. So yeah, this is a really, really good dress. I hope you all liked it, and I hope you can download the pattern to make it for yourself. Just so you know, with this pattern, since it is free, it only comes in one size, which is a size 6, which is what I wear, dress size. So my bust is 89 centimeters, my waist is 73 centimeters, and my hips are a 94 centimeters. So just keep that in mind when you download pattern. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy watching the video, and feel free to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you later.